This isn't the first book that Ernest Holmes wrote, but I think it's the most important book. It's the original Science of Mind. And on page 82, lesson 2, introduction, he writes these words. Mental science, which is the science of mind and spirit, makes a tremendous claim when it states that it can free the individual from the bondage of sickness, poverty, and unhappiness. It makes this statement without hesitation and without qualification. It does not retract from that claim, and it never will. That is the foundation. Oh, let's have no delusions. I'm going to cry. That's the foundation of what we teach. These are the words that Barbara has used to direct her entire life. And that's what we stand for. You ever want to tell somebody something about what we believe? That's it right there. Now you got to go into how that works, but that's the beginning. That's how we get started. So it's been a wild week in my life. And I have several things to share with you, and I'm not starting with Barbara. I'm actually going to start with Sydney Barnes, Cleaveland, Nevada, one of our original practitioners at this center. You were in the same class with Devon, right? So you guys were in the first class of practitioners we had here. It's lovely to see you today, Cleaveland. Thanks for being here. Her beloved is actually in Mission Hospital, had a 6-hour surgery this past week to rectify some issues with his spinal column. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I did go and visit with him, and we had as best a chat we could with his condition and what he was going through. But I have every sense that he's going to recover and that he'll be up and walking, which he hasn't been able to do for a while, and that he's on a definite course of healing and recovery. So, again, thank you for being here, Cleaveland. The next person I want to talk about is Laura Cleveland. Now, what seems to happen around here is that Laura's name will come up and someone will go, well, I don't know that I know her. And I'll say, well, she decorates our birthday cake. And they go, oh, well, I know who that is. I don't know how that makes a difference because she does it by herself in the kitchen. Just to help you all along, this is Laura Cleveland. Oh, yeah, I know her. Laura's amazing. Wonderful, just extraordinary woman. She's a teacher. She teaches small children, I believe. And she's very good at it. And she's very independent-minded and very private in her personal life. And all that kind of changed a few days back, about 10, 11 days ago. She had a procedure that was supposed to be pretty standard to correct some, what's that called when the stuff comes back up? Acid reflux. A very pretty standard procedure, and it was a out surgery thing, and she had it done and went home, and 2 days later was calling Barbara asking for treatment, saying, I'm really hurting, without any understanding. And what Laura has had since then, she went back into the hospital. She had emergency surgery the day after Barbara spoke to her. That was Friday a week ago. And Barbara went to see her on Saturday morning. And I wasn't getting the sense of how serious this was, but Barbara came home pretty much white as a sheet and said, Laura could die. And I said, no. And I know we're not supposed to do that. You know, we're supposed to let everybody take their course, but I've had so many conversations with Laura about her life, and it just doesn't make any sense that she would be ready to leave this world. And so I said, Barbara, let's go back to the hospital and pull her back. And so we did. We went back and we treated with her, and she had a friend there who joined us, and we did a treatment, and she was not really all that present. And apparently what had happened was somehow there was in that procedure, a hole in her stomach emerged, and her entire body cavity became infected, severely infected, which caused a number of problems. So every day but one since then, I've gone to see Laura. And there have been times that we didn't know. She's up and down, she wants to talk. She can't because she's intubated, and she wants to share. She's in her 30s. She's got all this energy, and yet she's in a hospital bed and can't move. And I know she's frustrated, and I know this is a struggle. And then she starts having these issues with circulation, and her hands turn black and her feet turn black, and they're not getting the right circulation, and they're doing everything they know how to do to support her. And then 2 days ago, I went into her room, as I had done every day, and there was this flurry of activity. There were all these people all in scrubs. And leaning over her on the bed is a surgeon who says that he's going to take her into emergency surgery. And I don't really even know why at the moment. All I know is that I'm standing in the midst of this hurricane of activity, and you could see she's scared. She should be. Who wouldn't be in that moment? And somehow the surgeon knew, without ever looking at me, your pastor's here. I don't particularly like that word pastor, but I accept it. When need be, we can play that game. And I came to her and I got closer. I said, every practitioner at our center is holding you up, is knowing the truth for you. You can do this. I reminded her how strong she is and how she's in charge here. But we got her back. And we do. And I know for a fact that every one of our practitioners has done deep work to support Laura Cleveland. And I'm so grateful to all of you for doing that. Because this sweet presence deserves it. She deserves to be supported like that. So apparently in the midst of all this, a surgeon came in and talked to her and was talking about amputating her feet and perhaps some digits off her hands. And that just it doesn't register with me how that could be. So we continued the work, and I kept calling Amika and giving her updates. Said, call the practitioners, send them emails, let them know what's going on. And yesterday afternoon, I went into her room. And for the first time, her hospital bed in ICU was up. It was propped up. She was sitting there. One of her friends, who's a nurse, was doing energy work on her. And I went around the corner, and she was what they did the day before was they did a tracheotomy. And finally, she can breathe right. And she looked at me, and she get this big smile. She can't talk because of the trach, but this big smile. And then she started writing on her little pad. She had so much to say. And I kept telling her that we've been holding her up and knowing the truth for her. And to see her sitting in that bed was the miracle that we knew had happened. So today she's having surgery on her left hand. They're not doing anything to her feet. And the plan is tomorrow she's going to Care Partners, which is a rehab facility. Yay. So I was so excited when I left her room. I went back to Barbara's room. And I said, Barbara, she's better. She's sitting up, and Barbara was so happy about that. And if you don't understand this, Barbara also has been in mission since last Sunday. So maybe it's time to talk about Barbara. If there's anybody here that needs to remember what she looks like. One of my favorite pictures. So, I think I need to go back to 2005. Oh, God, here we go. We sang David Alt's song today. In 2005, I was running for spiritual leader of United Church of Religious Science, or it was United, I don't know, I think it was maybe United Centers for Spiritual Living by then. But that was what was going on in my life, and I went to Austin, Texas to be with did I do that? Okay. Maybe I'll set that down for a minute. I went to Austin to a Religious Science International event where David was receiving his doctorate, and I was one of the speakers that day. And at the end of the day, I was leaving there the next morning and going to Miami where we were having our convention. And Barbara was going the day before me to Miami. You know, it's home. It's not hard to go down there and be there when you live there all your life. So when we were going to meet in Miami, and I got a call that night, or that evening, from Barbara, and she started the conversation by saying, "I'm all right." Not a good sign. Apparently, on that little flight from Asheville to Charlotte, Barbara had passed out on the plane. And the thing with the airlines is that if you pass out on their plane, they will not let you onto the next plane until you've been checked out by a doctor, which means she had to get in an ambulance and go to a hospital in Charlotte and get checked out, which she did, and she passed muster, and she got back to the airport and got on a different flight. So it didn't seem like a big deal, but looking back on it now, it was a big deal. Barbara has known that she's had high blood pressure for some time. She's never had any symptoms. It's never been anything that she felt that concerned about, even though doctors have shown some concern about it, because there are other times where her blood pressure is perfectly fine and normal. So we were just kind of watching that. Another event happened. We went down to Mexico. And we were coming back, and I have just so many miles on Delta that coming back from wherever we were in Mexico, meeting with ministers down there, they offered me a seat in first class, but they didn't offer Barbara one. She said, "Go sit in first class, it's fine." So I did. And in the middle of the flight, a flight attendant comes to me and says, "Can you come with me, please?" Barbara had passed out on the flight. At that moment, of course, I said, "I'm never, ever going to not sit with you on a plane again." And I've been true to that. But it was kind of the same thing, that there was something going on. But we didn't do anything. So recently, with doctors, a couple of different doctors in town, she's demonstrated she had high blood pressure. And her current primary care physician said, "Why don't you go into the hospital for a couple of days? Let them check you out." Barbara was not interested. Barbara has never been in a hospital overnight since she left the hospital when she was born. And so she worked a deal with her doctor. She said she'd go on a vegan diet and that she would take the blood pressure medicine that she'd been given. I think it was her 5th or 6th different blood pressure medicine that they tried to put her on. All of them did things to her body she didn't like. And so he acquiesced, and home she came, and she said, "I'm vegan." I said, "What do you mean you're vegan? We have to be vegan." No, one does not do that in a house alone. So we agreed to that and moved forward. Well, we come to last Sunday. Last Sunday, we had a wonderful time here. There was a meeting of that group that's working on our 25th anniversary, and we were supposed to be in that meeting. But Barbara decided she was tired. She wanted to go home. So she went home. I went to the meeting. And when I got home from the meeting, I walked into the bedroom, and Barbara was sitting in bed, and she couldn't talk. And her left arm was clutched like this, and her left, the left side of her mouth was drooping. And so I immediately called Margaret. Margaret is one of those people, her sister, Margaret, who does not remember to turn her phone back on after being in the sanctuary on Sunday. So her phone was off. So I said, well, then we're going to get in the car and go to Margaret. So Margaret heard this. We went to her house. She heard this. She said, "Go to the hospital now." So we did. We got back in the car and we went to the hospital. It had pretty much passed by then. But we got to the hospital, and God bless them at Mission, our local medical center. They've got a whole new emergency department there. It's beautiful, but still people are waiting all over the place to see a doctor. But I went in there, and I used the word that I would not have ever otherwise used. I said to them at the desk, "My wife is showing symptoms of a stroke. She needs to see a doctor now." They had her back in 5 minutes. They had her back there ahead of everybody else and brought her into a room. For one of the first things they did once they got that she was stable is take her for a CAT scan. And what the CAT scan showed was that she has an occluded carotid artery on the left side that it is completely blocked, and that although they call it collateral movement of blood around it, not enough to give that part of her brain all the oxygen and nutrients that she needs. And that was the cause of these episodes that she's had. And I didn't mention she had a couple of others. And so they admitted her into the hospital. And she stabilized, and it seemed like, let's just pursue this. Her doctor, she was assigned a wonderful neurologist who has done amazing work with her. Tests, so many tests, blood tests, another CAT scan, MRI, EEG. She walked around with these wires coming out of her head for a couple of days. She's had all this stuff done. And he came to us yesterday, right after I got back from Laura's room, and said that we're moving you to Wake Forest University Hospital, and you're going to meet with some surgeons and talk about where to go next. And they meant it, because come 7 o'clock, people came to take her in an ambulance to Wake Forest, and that's where she is right now. It's been a busy week. So I go back to this reading from the Science of Mind. I believe that. And as I tell you every week that I'm up here, you have the power to create your life. Now, I can see where Barbara and I probably did that thing called denial for a while, and it didn't help. Would it have changed if she had been on other medications for the last 15 years? I have no idea. But I know right now that she's challenged in the hospital. She's not speaking clearly. She's now has lost some of the use of her left arm and her left leg. And she's talking to surgeons. What they're talking about doing is actually the carotid artery forks up right in this part of the head, and one of the parts of the artery goes into the brain, and the other part stays on the outside and feeds the skull. And apparently that outside part is perfectly clear. And so what they're talking about doing is a bypass surgery where they'll actually move that other artery in to feed blood to her brain. How will this go? Well, I believe that's up to us. And her, of course, her most of all, but we're her family. And if this that Holmes teaches us, that we have the power to create the conditions of our lives, then this will work out. Because Barbara's not interested in staying in this state. She wants to come back and be with us. So it's our job to get her back. So what I want to do is something we haven't done here. On Fourth Sunday, we always surround the room with practitioners and invite people to go to practitioners and begin by saying, "No, with me that," and to bring some change into our lives through that connection with a practitioner in the few minutes that happens. Well, what we're going to do differently here today is I want to invite all of the practitioners, as they do, to surround the room. But what we're going to do is called a chamber of prayer. We're going to invite all of them to speak aloud into this room all at once, their knowing for Barbara. She trusts you. You're her practitioners. Charlie mentioned to me this morning that he's been doing these practitioner Zoom calls, conference calls with practitioners around the world for the time that he's been in charge of practitioners in our movement, and that last year he did one with Barbara on the care and support of practitioners. And apparently that's the one that people contact Charlie and want the most, to know how to do that. So Barbara has given our practitioners, all of us, such a gift by believing in you and in helping to educate you in the matters of the science of mind, and loving on you and believing in you, and to untold levels. It's your turn to give back to her. And I know that you have been holding her in this way for this past week. But we're going to do it together now. And those of you that are not practitioners that will not be circling the room, here's what I want to ask of you. If you believe that you're a visual person, I want you to visualize Barbara standing on this stage, speaking clearly, not as a memory, but as knowing that for her now. I want to also invite you to know for Laura that she's dancing. She said to me yesterday, they can't take my feet, I'm a dancer. And I said, would you like everyone at the center to see you dancing? She said, yes. So I want you to see Laura dancing. And I want you to see Sydney walking. I want you to hold these people. And if you're visual, I want you to see it. And if you're not visual and that doesn't work for you, then just say the words. Say those things to yourself. Convince yourself that that's the truth. This is the power of what we teach, that we create through our minds, through this thing that Holmes initially called mental science, that we create the conditions of our lives through our thinking. And we think in pictures, and we think in words, and we think in feelings. So however you want to do that is fine. So I want to invite our practitioners to circle the room. And I'm actually, during this, going to sit down and join all of you in this knowing in that way. And we are recording this, so while everybody's getting up, I want to talk to a camera. I'll talk to the center camera and invite all of you, wherever you are, whenever you happen to watch this video, to join us in this knowing, to know with us that Barbara and Laura and Sydney are whole, that they are healthy, and that they have everything that they need for this to be so in their lives. One of the things that we learn from Holmes is that there is no time and space, that these are used for us to move through life. But the truth is that our treatment work, our work in consciousness, is non-local and non-time specific, so that we can know all of this right now. This is powerful work we're about to do. You're impacting lives right now by doing this work in powerful and meaningful and profound ways. Don't underestimate the importance of this. If you feel any fear right now, I invite you, I implore you to let it go. It will not serve us to have concerns for these people right now. That will get in your way and you won't do your work, even though our culture teaches us to be concerned. Don't do it. Don't fall into that trap. Know the truth. See these people living their lives brilliantly and wonderfully. Will you do that for me? Okay. Here we go.
One divine intelligence born all around with his health, with his wellness, with his wholeness, with his wealth, with his ease. It is who and what God is, and God is all as Barbara Waterhouse or Cleveland, I know for Barbara that she is the absolute wholeness, health, and well-being of the spirit. I know that she is clear in every aspect of her body, that her body is functioning in its highest and fullest pursuit. I know that everything that she is in this situation is absolutely giving us her gift. I know she is clear. I know she walks with ease, talks with ease, and is herself powerful, clear, creative. And I know the same for Laura and Sydney. I know As we know this truth, this truth in my heart, I release these words into the great fullness of spirit, the ever-present, caring, loving spirit. It surrounds us. All his loving. Always says yes in this moment. I know it is so, and so it is.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I just feel like applause are in order. Let's do applause for everybody and all this good work. I will keep you informed as to how things are going. We'll do that with Devon and Rodney. And continue to do this work. Continue to know the truth. And then we'll see the miracles happen. I guarantee it. I love you all so much. Thank you.